Danny, as you were contacting her, did you have any idea what the Lord's plan was? I mean, did you all just feel like you clicked immediately, or did you feel like, oh, she's not going, you know, here's this woman who's quote-unquote famous. Did you feel that God had this plan?
Do you know, it was a bizarre thing, because right away, like even that night on Celebrating Life in Recovery, I knew there was something, but I'd actually made a vow, you know, around that time I would never let anyone be close to me again. It's just me and Jesus, not my husband, not friends or anything. I'd just been
You were really wounded.
I was really wounded. And so, but right away, Cherie was in my heart. And it, you know, it's kind of like, you know, it's like a soulmate thing, and I didn't know if I even believed in that stuff. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. I'm bonding with someone I've never met, nothing to do with the television stuff. I just know her. And I didn't contact her for a while. God just kept, he was like a nagging little child, just, you know, you've got to do it, you've got to do it. And I had no idea why. I knew that there was something special. When we met, it was just like an old friend I hadn't seen forever, and it was like coming home.
Amen. I know exactly. You know, we have a mutual friend, Joanne Davies in New Zealand, and I know the first time we were together, it was so comfortable, and we clicked, and you know, I knew I could trust her, and it's interesting how friendships form.
Oh, we should have had her here today.
Oh, you know Joanne as well. Well, Joanne, if you're watching, we all send kisses to you, darling.
And we became friends, almost. I would say we became friends right away. We almost knew each other because we kind of had been each other at any given time. She asked me to come over. We go over, and it's just ridiculous. Not only did I have some gigs there and did some outreaches there, camp meetings, that kind of stuff.
It just tickles me to death when you say gigs. Oh. Like, okay, that's not very Christianese.
Yeah. Well, you know, they were Christian gigs.
I know they were.
But we get over there, and I think that what I thought about friendship, I have a lot of people I know. I have a lot of people that are in my life. I have a lot of people that I love, you know, a lot of people that love me, you know. But, you know, the friends that I had that were really close in my life were people that I got high with, or smoked dope with, or, you know, shot up with, or you know, all that, you know, stuff from when I was kind of in a whole different world. And when I became a Christian, I somehow put that world over here, and I started behaving myself. You know, and does that make sense?
Yeah,
And so I think that what God was saying to me is that we really need each other, and we need to look at friendship as a way of healing, a way of connection. When you said that Jesus looked at the disciples and said, you know, I'm not going to call you servants anymore, I'm going to call you friends, I'm going to invite you into my inner circle. And I think that what God started to share with me is that how many people could I just sit with for hours and talk about nothing or everything, or the worst things that are happening in my life or the best things. And I started to, at the time that Danny came into my life, literally open myself up to having friendships. You have to be, I think, intentional about that. Absolutely. But intentionally having friendships.
You know, Proverbs 18:4 said, a man who has friends must himself be friendly. And there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. Of course, that expression can be conveniently applied to Jesus, but because he's there always through thick and thin. But let me ask you this question, and I'm just going to call you Danny. How has this friendship that God provided for you with Cherie, how has that helped heal you, stand you back up in ministry? How has it affected your spiritual walk? Because truly, that's what a good friend will do for another, is they will help them to grow closer to the Lord. So how has that worked for you?
Yeah, I don't think I ever had a proper concept of what unconditional love was in my life, not only to receive it, but also to give it. Love, I think, in its pure context and in the context that Jesus says it, is really about giving. You know, it's about selflessness. And, you know, when we've been through intense stuff at times, and stuff that could have easily destroyed our friendship, but at the end of the day, do I choose to love? You know, and I've had a point where I had a choice to walk away, and Cherie's had a choice to walk away.
Because friendship is not always easy.
It's not, and let's be honest about that. But, you know, I got to a point where I said, you know what, God, I love her and she's always going to be my best friend. And I can survive without her because we don't have a codependent, unhealthy relationship, but I don't choose that, but I'm just giving her to you. And I choose to love her regardless of what happens. And, you know, God's good and we're stronger than ever, and that's fantastic. But it doesn't just stay contained to that. I think when you learn to love unconditionally, it doesn't just stay within that relationship. You now understand how to give. And so your marriage, your relationships with your children, your friendships, you're a healthier person for it, and you can be healthier for someone else. And so I think that's a huge thing. And I think another beautiful thing about that is that it allows you to see the heart of God. That, you know, we mess up, and you know, I know when we've gone through some tough times, that sometimes it feels like your chest's ripped open, and, you know, it's painful, but, you know, I can't close this up because I'm choosing to love, so I have to feel that pain. And when you feel how much you love someone and the pain that's sometimes associated with that, it can be unbearable. And God said to me, how do you think I feel?
Amen.
Trillions of times over, that's how much I love you. Amen. That's how much I love every single person in this world, and that's why I died for you. And, you know, we don't have an option.
Amen.
God is love.
So I assume now you're working for the conference, you're back into the church.
Yes.
And you're finding that God has increased your capacity to love again.
There's a book written by Dr. John Townsend on friendship, and what he says in that is that, you know, friendships really, you know, let them develop.
Yeah.
You know, so that
you can't force it.
Yeah, you can't force it, and you can't go in and just say the first day I'm going to tell you everything about me or whatever. It's a, you know, he's saying, you know, good 6 months, a year, even a couple years to let a friendship develop, but intentionally make sure you spend time and go out to lunch and laugh with them. You know, yeah, I like a plant, I have to water a plant, and if I don't water that plant, it's going to die, and friendships are the same. You have to be intentional. But when I decided at one point that I was in a crisis and having some struggles, and I needed to call someone, and my heart, it just pounded, because I thought, I just don't do that. I don't do that. I keep it to myself, and I pray, and I journal, and I do all those kind of things, but I wouldn't burden anybody with that. And I was reading this book on friendship, and there was a chapter that said he had a friend, and the friend, he didn't hear from him for a year, and at the end of the year, he says, you know, I haven't heard from you, like, for a year, and he said, I was going through this really dark time, and I didn't want to burden you. I didn't want to be high maintenance. And the chapter was, by not calling me, you became high maintenance. I need to know that when you're struggling, I can trust that you'll pick up the phone and call me. When you need someone, I can trust that you're not going to try to do that on your own. And so I read that, and so I call Danielle, and it was really tough. I was like, you know, I'm having this struggle, and you know, it's horrible, and you know, it's family stuff, and I want to scream, and I want to throw a jar of honey against the kitchen wall. I want to do all those things that I don't typically do, but I want to do all of them. And what's really, I think, incredible about a good friend is I don't have to worry about her saying something disrespectful about anybody in my family, husband or anything, because I know that not only does she love me, but she loves my family. And so that's a big thing about friendship, is you know, if I'm going to call and I'm in a crisis and I just want to scream and yell about something, is I don't want you to give me bad advice. I don't want you to talk about, I don't want any of that kind of stuff. And so what she did is that she listened, and she was so gracious, and you know, and I think she allowed me to scream and rant and rave, and you remember that.
Yeah.
So we did all that kind of stuff, and then afterwards, I just felt like, you know, I just felt better, you know. Not that we had any magic answers, and you're not going to fix anything or whatever, but I just felt better, and I felt stronger, and you know, you really sense the value of friendship in that moment. And then I get an email from her, and the email says, my heart feels so burdened.
So raw.
And remember, hold on though, raw.
Yeah.
And remember, what the devil strategically lies to me about is that, yeah, I don't want to burden anyone. And so the fact that the email came, where I took that, or where the devil just got on me about that, is that, see, you can't burden someone. You can't talk to someone about that. And so I immediately said, you know, I'm sorry, and you know, I know what I want to do that to you, or just, you know, too much and stuff. And she immediately almost called me. But that is not what I meant.
But God had told me that that's what was going on just before I got your email too. So he really had it covered. So I emailed back, yeah.
That's not what I had in mind. So in a friendship, what I think is really interesting for people is that part of having a friendship is being able to open up with someone, and it's not a burden, being able to be honest with each other on those hard times, and that is friendship.
But Cherie, I want you to just finish this thought up about how friendship, since God has taught you this, how has this brought you, as far as strengthening you, what has God done for you through?
Not only, I think that what I was amazed at God is he really stayed on me about the friendship. And I thought, I know a lot of people. And he said, no, friendship. Yeah. And there was something so healing for myself in that. And I'm watching the people that I work with heal over and over and over as they get this concept that we have to open up to each other and learn to love each other in a very real, authentic way. And I think it's life-changing. I think it's God's intention. I think he wanted us to have those close friendships.
What's your favorite story in the Bible? If you were giving your favorite friendship story in the Bible,
am I allowed?
Is it David, Jonathan?
It is. It has. God just so led me to that, you know, and I think even the type of friendship we have, like David and Jonathan, was very much a soulmate thing, you know. David loved Jonathan, you know, their souls were knit together, and David loved Jonathan even as his own soul. You know, you read about, you know, Saul being after David and Jonathan and having all that issue, and Jonathan seeks out David in, you know, in the midst of his dad trying to kill his best friend, and goes and strengthens his hand in God. And yes. I see so many parallels. So, you know, I think, you know, definitely David and Jonathan, Ruth and Naomi, you know, where you go, I'll go, and, you know, I'm not turning back. And, yeah, it's beautiful. And God's hand is so clearly over our friendship. I mean, we've seen it time and time again.